Welcome back, fellow retro fans. We have an exciting new episode for you this week. In our new retro game section, we will take a look at Haruragen, an amazing platform adventure for the Commodore 64, along with Dark Knight for Amstrad CPC. In the hardware reviews, we will inspect closely the TZX Duino, an exciting add-on for a variety of 8-bit computers that gives us a new and at the same time familiar method to load our games and programs. We open up our MS Dosbolt with the amazing Lakers vs. Boston's, the king of basketball games for the PC, long before the arrival of NBA Jam. With it, as in every episode, we will enjoy the gameplay of Night Knight, a remake of a classic MSX game for the PC. To end on an interesting note, in our history lesson this week, we will talk about the time that Amiga almost became a product of Atari. So what are you waiting for? Let's dive into it, for the love of retro. Well, hello to our new old games section, and this is Haruragen, another game from Cytronic Software. Now this is an platform action-adventure game. Now we have the story here, framed for a crime we didn't commit, on a prison ship, and Nicole is our ally. We need to find the parts to an escape pod. And here we go. The controls are fairly simple. We use the joystick to move in whatever direction we want to. Climbing down the ladders. These are the baddies of the game. They represent the ship's automatic security systems. The enemies are a bit aggressive on this game, meaning that you don't get to stand around just feeling safe because you're in a tight spot. They will go up the ladders, they will hunt you down to the edge of the screen. They're very fast and agile. There's also some environmental traps, just like these saws on the ground. Now, the goal of the game, along with collecting these gems, is to find the parts of the escape pod. Another environmental trap, this gate that opens and closes automatically, trying to crush us. Now let's go find one of those parts. Also, some gates are closed and you need a security clearance to go through, represented by a security clearance level A, B, C, D. Okay, let's go down this. Another trap on the ground. Now it does look like the enemies spawn endlessly, but that's not the case. In every screen there is a certain amount of enemies that will appear there. That's a key for the access level B that will open all the doors designated as security access B. Now, as I was saying, there is a certain amount of enemies that will spawn in each screen, and once we clear them, the place is safe until you walk out of the screen. If you walk back, sometimes, not every time, the respawning meter, let's call it, resets. some enemies are more aggressive. This is a power-up that replenishes our health. And I suggest clearing the screen first and then getting it like this. Now, as I was saying, some enemies are more aggressive, some are moving in a designated pattern, and others will just plainly hunt you down relentlessly. Some shoot projectiles, others try to crush on you to make you lose health. It is true that one of the weaker points in the game is that some enemies spawn directly to our position. Of course, there is a spawn animation, so if we're fast enough, we can avoid it. But it does seem a bit unfair sometimes. Now, let's see. This is one part of the escape pod. As you can see, there are many pods that we have to collect. There is also an amount of power-ups that gives us special abilities, like tearing down specific walls. We'll see later. There are some walls that our normal weapon cannot penetrate. Others make us invulnerable for a short amount of time. Now, the whole layout of the game, as you can see, follows a Metroidvania style. There is a map on the right, our clearance levels at the bottom. At the bottom right is the amount of pieces we have collected of the escape pod. And also in the middle it's the gems we've collected by destroying the Guardians. The colors are very good for a Commodore 64 game. The graphics are smooth. The enemies are one color only, the sprites, but that makes the animation of the enemies smoother. So I don't know if I would change that for more colors. I think I prefer the better animation. So let's see one of the power-ups too. It is, I believe, down this ladder. Yes, this is one. Now this will make us invulnerable to the enemies for a short amount of time. Now the game, this is a wall that needs a special power-up to break. Now the game is $3.99 US. Support the developers. You know, I always say that. It's an excellent game. I believe it will keep you entertained for a long time. It's really worth it. So go get it and have fun. Now our next game is Dark Knight, a game by Mananook, a Spanish developer. The Dark Knight Shadow of Madness. It's an action platformer starring Batman, of course. The goal is to free all the hostages taken by Batman's enemies. Our main weapon is the Batarang, that acts exactly like a boomerang, meaning we have one of them. There, we freed a hostage. You have one Batarang that you throw, and it follows a predetermined path before it comes back to you. That path is affected by the angle by which you throw the Batarang, and if it collides with an enemy. Some enemies, like these, I don't know, these red bullets, I don't know what it is, are indestructible. To free a hostage, all you have to do is walk on them. Now the controls are fairly easy. There is a slight problem when trying to jump and grab on a wall if you're playing with a joystick. I found that the controls with the keyboard are a bit more easy. Other than that, the game is fairly simple. It is on the hard side. Nothing too extreme, just a bit challenging. It did remind me of a more action-oriented version of Jet Set Willy for some reason. You can grab on the walls and ledges like this and make a jump to reach a further platform. Like I said, it takes a little getting used to. The graphics and the sound are very good. It's an Amstrad CPC game. The color palette is very good. Lots of colors. The animation is excellent. There is no in-game music, but the sound effects are very good. The animation of the enemies and the enemy AI, they're pretty aggressive sometimes. I think it's a wonderful game for the CPC, and it's really worth it. It's really worth your time. The game is free, but you can support the developers by sending any amount you desire, and I believe you should do so. Great game. Thumbs up from me. Welcome to this week's hardware review. And for you this week we have the TZX Duino. It's a new and exciting way to load your games. It works on many 8-bit platforms, such as an Amstrad CPC, an Acorn Electron or BBC Model A or B, and of course my beloved ZX Spectrum. Now, it's a small and simple device, designed like a tape recorder, like a tape actually. Here we can see the USB connection. This is the SD card filled with goodies and games. Now we have here the input methods and output for the sound. There is an amplifier right here. Now the keys on the device are fairly simple and they're designed like a tape recorder. Up, down, stop, play and boot. Now the device needs an external USB power supply. Just make sure you got the proper one. It has this kind of old USB connection. You must excuse the fact that things are kind of tight here because I only had a very small length cable, so just put it here and it boots up. Now you can see here we will also plug in the audio cable right here, and next we will boot up our ZX Spectrum. Now, before we go to show you how it works, which is really fairly simple, I have to show you the menu. Now, as you can see here, actually, you know what? We will zoom in to give you a much better image of how it works. Now you can see here, with up and down, we get to see the directory structure there. Once we choose the directory one, we press play. It reads the files. Again, with up and down, we choose the game we want and press play once. Initially, the file is paused. And now we press play again. And it starts loading. Let's go see it. So here we are at the main menu. We choose tape loader. And having pressed play on the TZX Duino, the game starts loading. As you can see, the process is very much the same as loading from a tape recorder, either the integrated tape recorder of a Plus 2 or an external. Of course, that means that it takes the same amount of time to load. So if you're of a younger generation, you should be patient. But if you are an ancient like myself, you are going to enjoy it, I believe, as I do. You know, reminds you of those old days of waiting in front of the screen, full of excitement of what's to come next. Now, moving on, we see the loading screen, as you can see. And let's move on now to see the game completely loaded, and here it is. It's good old 1943 in all its full glory and gameplay. As you can see, it's very simple and very easy. Now I must note here that the boot key on the TZX Duino is useful to reset the cartridge. Okay. Now you can see the good old gameplay from 1943. I still got it. So let's go. Let's wrap this up. So this is the TZX Duino or Max Duino. It's an excellent device, as you can see. It loads games with the same way we used to load from a tape recorder, which makes it, you know, it gives you that wonderful nostalgic feeling. It's a cheap device. Its construction is very solid. It's simple to use, albeit it looks a bit complicated at the beginning. It's really not once you get used to it. The menus are simple. You do need a good sound cable, either the original of the ZX Spectrum or a new one. Make sure it's monophonic, otherwise you might run into trouble. And if you can, find a longer USB cable than I have. It's a great gadget, and I definitely recommend it because it's, well, within the retro spirit and it's fun to use. So another thumbs up. Hello and welcome to this week's MS Dosbolt. This week we have Lakers versus Celtics in the NBA playoffs, a basketball game originally for the MS-DOS and later for the Mega Drive and Genesis. This is the copy protection. Let's past that. Now, we have various game types. The game came out in 1989 for the MS-DOS and is widely considered the previous king to the throne before the NBA Jam. Now we'll start on a typical fast game. Here we have the rosters. We can change the players for the team. But let's get into action. Now, the controls are fairly simple, especially if we use the numeric keypad. There's also a joystick support, but the joysticks of those days were, well, especially for the PC, not the best you could have, so strongly suggest, not so good. There, taking the lead. As I was saying, the game is easy to control. You're using the keyboard. You can adjust the time that its quarter will have. Achieving a 3 points shoot is not an easy thing in this game. You're better off trying to score beneath the basket. 5-second violation. The game follows the rules of basketball. There, an end of quarter. Now we can make changes to our team or begin straight away the next quarter. The graphics, granted that this is a 1989 game for the MS-DOS, are very good. Now bear in mind that this is a 1989 game, so the graphics are rather good. They're EGA, that's the best setting we can get. No VGA graphics, unfortunately, yet. This is an excellent game, and granted that it's before the great rulership of NBA Jam, I highly recommend it to anyone looking to get their fix on a good MS-DOS basketball game. It has the big names of those days. I believe it's a game you will enjoy. It's rather fun, easy to handle. It's pretty challenging sometimes. There are two modes, arcade and simulation. I do believe it doesn't get any better than this back in those days. So let's move on to our next game. Now this is Night Night. It's a remake of the classic Night Night game for the MSX, a remake by Ankad, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. There's plenty of options here to give it the retro look that you might want. Let's go start and see the game. The premise of the game is rather simple. You have to paint all the floors that are divided into tiles by walking over them. It's a story about a certain knight that has become afflicted with a curse that won't allow him to sleep at night unless, I don't know how it's related, but unless you paint all these floors with the correct color, and that will break the curse. Now, initially, as you can see, when we paint all the floors, a key appears and the door to the next level gets unlocked. Now, at the beginning, the enemies are fairly simple. They follow a predetermined path, usually going from left to right, trying to catch us. Needless to say that a simple touch from them and it's bye-bye to one of your lives. Now, it's very important to note here that the controls are really tight, allowing you to make jumps at the very last moment. That means that the collision detection is excellent. The game, although as you'll see later on, becomes gradually tougher, it never becomes unfair, exactly because the collision detection and the controls are excellent. Now you'll see in this round we get introduced to a new enemy, that different skeleton, or I don't know, ghost knight up there, who is equipped with a bow. The moment he faces us, he will launch an arrow. Now what I said about the enemies goes for the projectiles as well. The collision detection is excellent and fair, meaning that you can dodge any projectiles. Oh, this is one of the power-ups. It gives us more time to finish the round. As I was saying, there's always enough time, if we time it right, to avoid the projectiles. There's a variety of power-ups, as the one I picked up before, the hourglass, that extends our time. There is a specific amount of time that we have to finish each round. That adds to the challenge. There's the shield that will protect us from a hit. Now I know that at the beginning the game seems simple enough, but trust me, the gems are giving us a score bonus. See here, it's really easy to avoid the enemies if you time it right, and it's never unfair. Alright, up and up. There we go. Let's see a little bit further. That stage was cleared. Let's see now. Of course, there's environmental hazards such as the spikes at the bottom. Now, if you saw that, I jumped really close to one of the enemies, but I did not touch him. Now, let me tell you, there are many games out there that would have detected this as a touching, meaning that I would lose a life. I know I overstated it, but it's very important to this kind of games. The graphics are colorful and beautiful. The animation is very good. Now this is a different kind of enemy that jumps levels, following us all the way to the top, and then starting all over again from the bottom, making the game even more challenging. Now, as I was saying, the music, the sounds, the animation, the graphics, they're all top-notch. The game is free, but you can always donate whatever you want to the creator. I always suggest you do that because you can see how much love and effort has gone into the game. So let's move on to our next section. Welcome to this week's history lesson. And boy, do we have an interesting story for you this week. Now, we all know of the famous Amiga 500 and the entire family of Amiga computers. But did you know that we came this close to the nightmare of having a Atari Amiga? Well, the story of Amiga goes way back when Jay Miner was working at Atari Incorporated. Now, a few years later, he found himself working on a new company named Hi Toro or He Toro. They started working on a machine for a number of investors, which were, well, you would never guess it. They were dentists, rich dentists mostly from California. Now, that machine was named Lorraine. And for a period of time, it was nothing but a prototype with cables and little chips and whatsoever. Now, the development of the machine did not go as planned. Mostly because initially the machine was designed as a video games console. And the 1983 video game crash came crashing down on everyone's heads, and the word game console was a taboo. So, Jay Miner, along with the other great developer, R.J. McCall, started transforming their machine into a computer. But money was short, and they turned to Atari to get a loan. It was about $500,000, but with fine letters. They had to pay the loan back by the end of the month. The terms said that if they wouldn't do that, Atari would get a hold of the entire Lorraine project. To make things worse, a certain power man of the industry, Jack Tramiel, yes, the famed Jack Tramiel, had bought out the computer division of Atari that Warner Bros. Was selling out to cut losses. Now, Jack was intent on creating his own 168000 Motorola machine. And when he found out about the deal, he was really interested. It would seem that the Hey Toro team would lose the rights to Amiga forever to Atari. Well, Commodore, that was lacking a plan at the time because, well, let's just say Jack Tramiel didn't leave exactly in good terms, decided to help Hey Toro, now renamed Amiga, and pay off the loan to Commodore, to Atari, and fund the project a further $24 million to purchase the entire Amiga project, but allowing the people, Miner, R.J. McCall, and Dale Luck, to continue to work on it. Well, it was a sweet deal, and it worked. As we all know, Commodore launched Amiga a few years later. Of course, Jack did not leave things like that. There was a court battle, and at the end, the whole thing was settled out of court. But, well, for all you fans of the old war between Amiga and Atari, we came this close to having an alternate history situation. Join us next week as we delve into another exciting and unique history lesson. Bye. Well, that's it. We'll see you next week, right here for the Love of Retro. See ya.